Bonjour, je m'appelle Samuel Penn, and my French is probably terrible, so I apologise for that. Welcome to my 21st development diary for Mongoose Traveller 2nd edition on Foundry Virtual Tabletop. And one of the first things I'm going to announce is, though my French is terrible, fortunately I have some people out there who are willing to contribute to the product, and amongst them Le Ratia Bretonian, I hope I pronounced that right, on GitHub, who has provided some French translations. And as I think I've mentioned before, XY Swords is providing Spanish translations, so we do now have translations if you want to play Traveller in some language other than English. If anyone else wishes to provide translations, I'd be happy to accept them as pull requests on GitHub. So thanks to you guys, and on with the rest of things. So I think it's been a while since I've done one of these. I have been continuing to look at adding support for the new vehicles rules. It's been taking me a while to get my head around how vehicle design actually works, so I'm not going to go too much into that in this video, because progress has been slow, and I haven't had a huge amount of time to look at things. I've also looked a little bit at version 14. Again, someone else is contributing some fixes for that, so many thanks. Between us, hopefully we'll get those fixes in. Unfortunately, active effects break completely in version 14. I'm not sure why. I don't know whether it's something I've done in the system or whether it's just a general problem with version 14 of Foundry, but yeah, it's not workable on version 14, and it's going to take a while to get to the bottom of that. So I started my new Traveller campaign last week, and this was a bit more combat focused than my previous campaign. So we actually had a combat, not a particularly big one, but one thing that happened in there was I realized I needed to take account of things like surprise, and that's tricky to do. So I've implemented a whole load of things over the weekend. What started off as a simple, well, let's just add in some options for being surprised and not being surprised, turned into a complete rewrite of how I handled status effects. So first of all, where things started. We can create an encounter. Not begin. Yes, okay, so yeah, let's create an encounter, and let's add Bob into the encounter, and let's add Alice as well. And you'll notice that they actually have initiatives rolled. So what's happening now is when you add actors into the encounter, it will automatically roll their initiative. So 2d6 plus their initiative bonus -8. So it's the effect of an initiative check. And so you don't have to then go in and automatically click. I can see some people asking, well, can we have a way for players to do that from the character sheet? The problem there is a character sheet, especially for player characters, isn't necessarily associated with any one token. So and it's tokens that get added to the combat encounter, not actors. So we'd need to find a way of doing that. I have looked at some other systems and none of them seem to have a roll initiative and add yourself to the combat encounter from the character sheet. There may be some out there, but not that I could see. So, but for now, it's nice and quick. You can modify that if you want to. So let's remove those. And okay, so what if we have a surprise situation? So there's probably a better place for this, but we've now got an add status effect, and you can add in, let's say, an aware. So if you're aware, you gain +6 to your initiative. And okay, it's not available on that type of character sheet yet. And we could add in a surprised. But what we can do for him, if we go to there, surprise, we can add surprised in. So they've now got little effect icons on them to show that they're surprised or not. And actually, can we add multiple people at once? We can. So let's add them in, and we'll see we've got some very high rolls for Alice, and well, I say very high, reasonably high rolls for Alice and Bob, and low rolls for the two outlaws, because they were surprised and Alice and Bob were aware of that the fight was about to start. Aware is the term that's used in Mongoose Traveller. So if we begin the combat, and we go through, and when we get to the end, those bonuses and penalties automatically get removed at the end of the first round. I mean, that's how the rules are meant to work. It does mean that, I mean, I can't remember where Outlaw Guy was, but he was somewhere down the bottom, and so he's then going, possibly going to go twice. It's personally, I prefer it if it wasn't removed, if those bonuses stayed, but the rules say they get removed after round 1, so you get a reshuffling of the ordering. I mean, after round 1, normally after round 1, the order doesn't matter that much. It's a bit like D&D. You just go first player, second player, third player. There's no real advantage after the first couple of rounds, whether you're at the start of the cycle or you're at the end of the cycle. But that's the issue with most role-playing game systems. Initiative only affects the very first round. In this case, it affects the first 2 rounds because of that reordering. But yeah, so that is now automatically handled, which brings us to these status effects. So you've now got a way of adding status effects to a character. As I said, there's possibly a better place to stick this, but let's say we've also got tactics. For tactics, this adds to your initiative, and we can increase it here, and as you can see, this person's initiative goes up. So if someone on your side makes a tactics check at the start of the combat, you can add the tactics effect to all the characters on that side, and then when initiative is rolled, they will get an initiative bonus. And you can remove that. And we have other ones such as prone. We have a look at hiding. Hiding is basically when you're in cover. So if you're the in cover effect gives a penalty to be hit, hiding actually gives you actual physical cover, and we can increment that, and we can see it's also giving you armor. So you can have status effects which give you armor and effect statistics, which wasn't possible before. We're doing this because these are effectively using active effects behind the scenes. We can have physical penalties, so this will affect skill checks. It will affect physical skill checks. So if we have, does she have any physical skills? Fire, I guess. -7, that counts because it's based off dex. It will count as a physical skill, and she gets -7 to that. And you can modify them here, and it will switch between orange and green depending on whether it's a bonus or a penalty. So we have a limited set of effects defined, but they're all available from this drop down. And as you can see, some of them are informational only, so things like prone and in cover don't actually affect the difficulty to hit people, because we don't actually have a way of automatically calculating a to hit yet. At least it works on spacecraft, not on travelers and NPCs or creatures. So that's something I want to do, but it makes combat a bit more fiddly because you have to select a target and that sort of thing. But it will be coming at some point. So if we take a look at Alice, if we zoom in, we can see that she's got a lot of icons, and I have added a whole range of new effect icons. Apologies for the quality of the icons. I am not an artist. If anyone out there is an artist and wants to provide some better quality icons, feel free. Again, I'd quite happily accept some. That goes for the other default icons I provide in the system. Currently, I'm keeping all the standard ones. I could get rid of them. I don't know whether anyone makes use of them. Some of them are quite fantasy, sort of specific. Others, I mean, they could all be useful to some. I mean, some of them we do use. So stunned gets used if you're get stunned effects. Unconscious gets used if you go unconscious. So yeah, you can remove them from here. You can also add them in. However, if you add them in, they don't get all the metadata that you would get if you added them from the character sheet or from the macro. So speaking of macro, and I did sort of briefly show it, I am now going to be shipping a new macro which will set status. Actually, I don't know whether you need to, so we could set, make all of these fatigued. Yep, and they all gain a fatigued thing, which will give them a -2 physical penalty if you're fatigued. So yeah, using the macro for doing multiple characters at once is a good idea. For things which need a value, there's not a value option there at the moment, but I plan to add it. I just need to decide how I want to add that in to allow you to add a value in that as part of that dialogue. But yeah, you can take this macro and modify it if you want, but it will be part of the compendium. So base macros, there's a whole range of them here. Feel free to make use of them. Yeah, it does mean so the way we used to do status effects was with flags. That was quite early in the process, and yeah, flags weren't the right way of doing it. If you're still making use of the flags, then they won't have any effect anymore. So you can generally, if you add something in via one of these effects and then remove it, it will also remove the flag if you've got some old flags hanging around on actors. But yeah, so hopefully that will be useful to some people. I'm not sure what else there is to say at the moment. Yeah, so these, I'm going to do some final testing today and then sort of push out a release. That may or may not go out before or after this video. So yep, if you've got any comments or anything, then feel free to add them to the video, or come find me in the Traveller Discord on on Discord. Yeah, we do have some other things in the pipeline. So someone has been trying to what their name. Yeah. Hakeem4321 has provided some options for powers, which is another item type which allows you to sort of use telepathic powers and things, and automatically roll them and use them from the sheet, and it keeps track of side point usage and stuff like that. I'm not quite sure whether that's how I want to do that yet, so I haven't accepted that. Hakeem, if you're watching this, I am still thinking about how I'd like to do that. If anyone else has any ideas on how they'd like to see telepathic powers done, then again, feel free to comment below. But yeah, so there is work in progress. I'll sort of finish off some things around these active effects. There's some other improvements that can be made. But beyond that, I'm trying to get the vehicle stuff done. Which, yeah, is taking more time than I expected, because it's going to require a lot of work to handle the vehicle design process. Okay. And I think that's the end of my rambling. So hopefully people are enjoying playing Traveller on Foundry with my version of the system. As I said, add comments below. And if you got this far, thank you for listening, and thank you for all the positive comments you guys leave. It's much appreciated. Okay. Thank you, everyone.